very good morning to you and welcome to Morning Cafe. I was trying to run away. It is the 26th day of January 2026. A lot is happening in the country and kama kawaida we're here to bring you up to speed with all that. My name is UDA-ODM.
My name is Freddy Ndimunda. Sijui tutatembelea wapi sisi watu Arsenal.
Na watasema tunakaa confused.
Kila mahali. Leo nimepanda Uber naambiwa tu Arsenal.
They knew?
It was painful.
They knew when you were Arsenal.
Leo uchungu iko. How do you start a Monday like this?
Mpira wa zungu.
Even ndio watu wa Man U wana feeling. This is how you feel usually.
Choma tu, endelea kuchoma. Na unajua director ni nani leo. Hata producer ni kama ameingia bandwagon ya
nafikiria huko ndani zaidi. It's okay.
All right. That's beside the point. Tuangalie magazeti ya leo. Hiyo mpira ya wazungu isikuume kichwa kama wewe ni Arsenal fan.
Mpira ya wazungu
we are still on top of the table.
Mpira ya wazungu haitatusumbua.
Wanasema tuanze na feedback.
Niliona magazeti wachana huyu jamaa kwanza.
Wacha kwanza tu. Nimeona kwanza admin amechoma kabisa. Anasema Kiburi FC hello. Wacha tu tusome tumalizane na. Anasema Ndovu down again. Premium tiers, premium pay.
Happy. We are still top of the table, 4 points clear. Imagine hiyo yote even after Man U wameshinda hiyo game. Au wako namba? Season yao ni kama imeisha. Walichapa Man City wakachapa Arsenal. It's like they've lifted the trophy.
Wameganga hapa na sawa. Wacha tuweke video yao ndio hiyo. Wacha tuweke na tukisoma hizi feedback. Tukimaliza tukisonga. Mikey Chris tunakuona unasema hello, what a way to start a week. Cyrus Kinyoa anacheka tu hapo. Nelson Okwemba kwani ndo unaamka saa hii. Dominics down to where? Yes, down to where? Good question. Bedano Inaina anasema the gun in Arsenal's logo should be removed, just firing blanks we koma kabisa. Okode Comedian anasema I'm a human, I need to okay, you follow us. Muwache Mushene asubuhi bado tuko on top. Huyu ni Bene Ogola.
Kuna Wycliffe Ongeri hapa anatupea yellow card. Why tutaumia leo. Steve Adams game kubwa sio hiyo strategy yao ya corners and looking for championship low quality goals. Yenye hata Bayern Munich walisema ni ufala. Ni Zlatan anasema hello kale ka team ka season next season kaliona moto.
Wacheni nyinyi kabisa. Gazeti za leo zinasema vipi?
Tusome gazeti.
Taifa Leo. Aida ameza ndoano.
Lakini habari kuu ni unaona hata wameweka hapa juu. Gachagua awindwa kama swara. It is the same story on the front page of the Standard. President, stop this. That attack on a church in Wetima, Odhaya. I've been there by there. I know that village. It is such a quiet place. I don't think they even imagined ever in their lives they would even have the smell of Teargas huko kwao.
Oh yeah.
It's such a quiet place. Teargas, surely. Anyway.
Same story hapa chini. Daily Nation. How rogue police planned attack on Gachagua.
This daily Trump shifts reveal Kenya's deep exposure to US economy. All
right, we'll be back to take a look at the local dailies. Tuvuke boda. Hii kitu kwa nini isongi?
We'll be having this 4 individuals in studio. Kathy Rungu, Mesha Kodede, Daniel Orogo, and Murigi Kamande, who's an advocate of the High Court for State of the Nation, later starting at 6:30. So do stand by for that conversation.
All right, Monday Blitz will be coming after that. Of course, for Weekend Sports. Now host ni wa Man United.
And Arocho atakuwa hapo pia. And Fred Arocho will be there as well. Leo sijui by the way, si producer tukubalie, issue ikiisha tuende home haraka. Immediately we just exit. Otherwise sijui tutakaa wapi.
Tuanze Uganda. This is a new vision. Kama kawaida it's yellow hapa chini. Congratulatory messages still flowing in for the president-elect Museveni.
They are doing it now. Mpaka wameongeza picha ya First Lady sasa. Congratulations. This story lisha. Let's move on.
New Chief Justice is another story there. Now President Museveni and of course the wife is also there. But the main story speaks about battle for KCCA Council, why NRM gained more ground in city council elections. That story is on page 4.
KCCA is actually the Kampala City County Council. So ile vita ya mayors, I think it's still continuing. It's a bigger deal more than what they did with the presidents and MPs.
All right. Chinese president hails Museveni on re-election. That's the story on page 5. Kule juu, 17 cars linked to 2 billion shilling scam impounded. Legacy of peace progress.
That's a free magazine. I see one overdo sasa. Legacy of peace tell. Uganda.
You have to be in the right books.
I tell you.
Yeah, rais.
Itabidi. Naona hapo oneka chief of defense, jamaa wa polisi na first lady.
Yes.
Ndio unasema congratulations properly. That congratulations message is also there on the front page of Daily Monitor. Hapa chini unaona hii yellow hapa. Hii yote ni karibu nusu ya gazeti ni congratulations. 40 years of no change. That's the Daily Monitor. They call it a roller coaster. The ruling NRM party will today mark 4 decades since it fought tooth and nail to seize the reins of government. The journey has been a mixed bag with some achievements that show it can deliver the goods, yet also riddled with broken promises and a creeping return to the very evils that once drove the current regime to take up arms to fight them. Hawajaweka picha ya Museveni hapo, ameweka tu kofia peke yake. Hiyo tu.
Hiyo ndo power.
Hiyo ndo power. 1986 to 2026. 40 years of no change. That's a Daily Monitor.
So in Uganda, if you're 40 years and below, you've never known any other leader.
Sasa kama wewe hata acha kusema Uganda, wewe unajua any other leader from Uganda.
Sasa I'm not Ugandan. It doesn't concern me.
You're just a simple Arsenal fan.
Hiyo ni mambo yao.
Well, that's a Daily Monitor. Tumuke bora tuingie Tanzania.
The Citizen, what Tanzanians' credit mix says about growth, and Tanzania's private sector credit continues to expand above 20% annually. But analysts warn that dominance of personal loans underscores a growth model that is still heavily supported by consumption rather than investment, thus offering short-term gains but posing longer-term questions. That's a story on the Business Daily inside The Citizen. How science is rewriting the domestic palm oil value chain is another story on page 3. They say researchers have introduced science-driven technologies designed to transform traditional palm oil production in Tanzania and change the lives of small-scale producers through significantly higher incomes. Matters international news here as well. Trump threatens 100% tariffs on Canada over China trade deal. When bridges become a hazard to people using them. And kule juu, regional leaders meet in Zanzibar to strengthen ocean protection.
Right, that's a Citizen. Tukisalia kule Bongo, tuangazie gazeti la Mwananchi. Wanasema walivyotema nyongo. Ni msiba wa Mzee Mtei, yule jamaa ambaye aliaga dunia wiki jana na alikuwa mmoja wapo wa mawaziri wa Julius Nyerere. Sema kwa mujibu wa wachambuzi wa siasa, kilichozungumzwa na wanasiasa kwenye mazishi yake kinaashiria uwepo wa ombwe la jukwaa huru la wao kuzungumza na kusikilizwa. Mazishi yake yalifanyika hii weekend ambayo imepita na wengi walizungumzia yale. Anaitwa Mtei. Mawazo mseto, tamko la tume ya Jaji Chande kufanya kazi zake faraga. Hii ni ile tume ambayo iliteuliwa kuchunguza mambo ambayo yalifanyika mwisho wa Oktoba katika uchaguzi mkuu kule Tanzania. Inaendelea, ni tume ya Jaji Chande. Wanasema wanataka kazi yake ifanyike kwenye faraga, yani openly. Open to the public.
Sikizi unajua Kiswahili.
Kiswahili sikizi mimi ni mweledi. Utaratibu huu hapa, bima ya afya ikianza leo, ni habari nyingine kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Kilio cha umeme kuisha haraka. Wamewekewa tokens kila saa ukiweka unasikia ti 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 kama watu wa Manu. Anyway, pale chini CCM ya kata mzizi ubunge hiyo hata sitaelewa, achana na hayo. Nafikiri tumepata habari nyingi. Mtei alizikwa na mazishi yake yalifanyika na wanasiasa wakazungumza mengi, na itume ya Jaji Chande inasema itakuwa na vikao vyake kwa faraga.
All right. We'll be back to take a look at the local dailies. Tuangalia hali ya anga kunakaa vipi. It was a very, very hot weekend. Let's start off in Kitui. This morning is 18 degrees, feels like it. It's a mostly cloudy day today, highs of 31 degrees. So it's still hot in Kitui. Precipitation is 10%. This is the weather all through this week up until next week in Kitui.
And remember, because we were seeing that trend, this week might actually be the hottest across the country. So just take a look at, let's say, a place like Nyeri, for example, in the Mount Kenya region, where the highs are 27. This is very hot even for Nyeri. They say today it will be clear skies with periodic clouds, highs of 27, but by Thursday, Friday, it will be hitting 28. No chance of rainfall in Nyeri today. Ni jua tu.
In Garissa, it's 24 degrees this morning, feels like 26. Highs of 37 degrees, huko hata kukaliki. Precipitation 5%, but hiyo hata itawasaidia in any way.
Ona ikifika Friday wanagonga 38. Have you ever seen anywhere tumesoma 38 degrees? Garissa this week they'll hit 38 degrees by Friday, Saturday and Sunday. It will be a very hot weekend. What about Nakuru? This is Central Rift Valley. 13 degrees currently, clear skies as well. Highs of 29 degrees. Nakuru 29, you burn. You actually burn. But yes, I think this is the hottest. After today, at least it drops by 1 degree. Itafika 28 degrees. But it's a hot. Naona hata wamechora ile ya kuanika nguo. Sasa unaanika nguo asubuhi by 10 am unaweza vaa.
This is Mombasa, 25 degrees this morning, feels like 27. Highs of 30 degrees. Precipitation in Mombasa is 10%, and this will increase kuanzia Wednesday rather. It's 31 degrees all the way into next week.
All right.
So it's very hot in Mombasa. Kisumu.
The lakeside city of Kisumu, it is even warmer this morning, 19 degrees, but it will get as high as 31 degrees. Partly cloudy, but hiyo jua itawaka. And that 31 will continue by next week tunagonga 32. Kisumu. Huko Kaliki. Kama Kisumu iko hivi, Homa Bay usiende.
Lakini Kisumu is always hotter than Homa Bay. Finally, Nairobi. Nairobi nataka kutupiga chenga hapo, but let's
acha tujaribu. Hata ikituchenga Nairobi lazima watu wa Man U ni kama wanataka kuleta shida hapa.
Here we have it. Nairobi this morning is 17 degrees. This is very hot. Usually it's 14 degrees, 15 degrees. It's clear skies today. Precipitation 29 degrees. At highs of 29 degrees, precipitation is 0%. So this...
Actually, last week we did not hit 28. We were hitting 27 and it was so hot. Now, today is going to be even hotter than yesterday. 29 degrees in Nairobi. Leo, kama unaweza kaa ndani ya nyumba, please do.
And it's a very, very hot week. Lakini usijali, it's the last week of January. We only have 4 working days.
Ni vile tu Monday imeanza tu a bit off, lakini sijui tuseme nini. Anyway, let's take a look at the Monday traffic and see what exactly is happening around Nairobi. Exactly 9 minutes past 6. And it looks like most roads are getting busy, especially pale Pangani interchange. Ni kwa nini inafanya hivi? Lakini unajua hii kitu ilikuwa set na mtu wa Man U leo. So nafikiri leo tutakuwa na shida sana na hii system. So let me just show you some of the trouble spots we have. Pale town, because I can see quite a number of spots of yellow. Yes. So kama hapa, unaona this entire area. This is the entire stretch from Uhuru Highway on Haile Selassie Avenue, pale karibu Kenya Poli. Inaitwa TUK siku hizi.
Yes, TUK.
The University of Kenya. The University of Kenya. Walikuwa wanajitanga the Kenya.
The Technical University of Kenya.
The Technical.
Yes.
So pale, Machakos bus station, kuna traffic leo. Heading towards town. Ukifika Haile Selassie Avenue around Marikiti Railways bus station, iko traffic pale. The only other stretch we are seeing hapa Jogoo Road kidogo pale Makadara, kidogo pale Likoni Road na pale Shauri Moyo, hapo tu. This entire stretch of Kangundo Road, all the way from Mamalusi Hospital, that junction there, mpaka ufike Kayole, utapata matatu zimesimama hapa na pale. The other place pale kama kawaida ni Pangani Interchange, it's getting very busy. Leo Outer Ring Road haina traffic at 10 minutes past 6 on both sides of the road. The entire stretch from the eastern bypass mpaka pale Thika Road ni kama hakuna traffic. This other side, nothing to worry about. All the stretch from the airport on Mombasa Road to town is looking good, and Wayaki Way as well is looking brilliant this morning.
All right, let's have the quote of the day. Greatness is not achieved in an instant. It's the accumulation of small choices and consistent effort day after day. Even when progress feels slow, every step brings you closer to your dreams. Let's take a look at the local dailies and
Sasa anyway, ni sawa tu, leo ni Monday. Tunaanza na business daily leo.
Amesema kama tunaona si gazeti tuache. Tutasoma, tutafanya tu. Business daily, Trump shifts reveal Kenya's deep exposure to US economy. And they say disruptions stemming from President Donald Trump's policy shifts have revealed Kenya's deep exposure to the US economy, refocusing attention on Nairobi's efforts to diversify and deepen its trade and development relations with other global powers such as China. Now, since President Trump returned to the White House for a second 4-year term in January 2025, Kenya has been rocked by a series of back-to-back policy changes. This includes a freeze on US aid program funding, delayed renewal of the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act (AGOA), cuts in funding to various UN agencies and programs, the introduction of a 10% tariff on Kenyan exports, and the exemption of American multinationals from global minimum corporate income tax. There's a very interesting story on page 2. They continue to say big ticket contracts worth more than 108 billion shillings were terminated by the US government in Kenya in March of 2025, even as President Trump's administration moved to cut back on overseas support and US aid programs in line with his America First agenda. NCBA owners face higher dividend taxes in a Nedbank deal. We talked about this almost the whole of last week. Lakini today they say NCBA group investors who take up shares of South African lender Nedbank in its cash and stock swap buyout will face a higher tax charge on dividends and risk of foreign currency losses when repatriating the earnings from Johannesburg. On the ticker, Treasury grapples with 176 billion shillings bills for court awards backlog. It is exploring alternative sources of revenue beyond the exchequer to clear ballooning backlog of court awards against the government, signaling the strain of contract and other breaches in public finances. Uganda pays KPC 1.2 billion shillings for imports through Mombasa. There's another story on page 6. And refunds pressure for KRA as palm oil import tax declared illegal. That's the Business Daily.
All right, from the Business Daily, we take a look at the Standard, and it's the biggest story coming from the weekend. That attack at a church in Wetima, Othaya. This is what is, and I think the Standard has chosen to go and take the problem right to the doorstep of the president, saying, President, stop this. Yeah, under fire, tear gas in a church, bullets in the air, and children choking in Othaya marked the latest attack on the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, amid a surge in such incidents since the impeachment. What unfolded at Wetima SEK was not just political violence, but an assault on faith, law, and public safety. As accusations swirl around police involvement, responsibility ultimately rests with President William Ruto, who must rein in the security apparatus and restore order. Now, this is the biggest discussion online currently, but I've seen a lot of government-allied bloggers actually claiming and insisting that the former deputy president orchestrated or managed this attack. But if you read the papers, I think, and you'll see on the Daily Nation, there was even a police officer who actually says, yes, he was aware about a plan within the police force or the police service to actually carry out this raid. So my question is, even if he staged this attack on himself, he still used police. So kuna shida kwa polisi, hata kama ali stage manage your attack ye mwenyewe, shida iko kwa polisi because it's the police who actually did it. Whether he stage managed it, whether it's government allied overzealous officers, either way, the police service was involved. Hapo ndio shida iko. Sahau hii mambo ingine, polisi walikuwa hapo. But the Standard says, President, stop this. I agree. However the police were involved, this was something shameful. It should never happen again. Whoever is behind it, Rigathi Gachagua himself or whoever, shame on you. Kule ndani, how head teacher managed big numbers and deliver results matters senior school inaendelea. Alafu najaribu kuona ODM split widens as Sifuna led wing vows to contest 27 presidency. It's an interesting take. Wamesema we are going for it. All right. So those are political stories, and I'm taking a look and seeing there's nothing else which is major kwa zile nini za mbele. So tuende kule nyuma, hata sports. Tanzania's Azam leave Nairobi United absolutely disappointed. Nairobi United's fairy tale run in continental football hit another hard wall yesterday evening after a 2-1 home defeat to Tanzania's Azam FC. So ile habari ya Arsenal itakuja kwa gazeti ya kesho. Simunipe off. Anyway, that's the standard. That's the standard.
All right, Taifa Leo. Nashangaa story gani kubwa hapa, lakini wacha tuanze na hii. Gachagua awindwa kama swara. Tunaona gari hapa ambayo imerushiwa, inaitwa Teargas kweli kweli. Aliyekuwa naibu wa rais Rigathi Gachagua ameishambulia serikali ya Rais William Ruto akisema inataka kumuua, huku akionya kuwa hatua kama hiyo inaweza kuitumbukiza nchi katika machafuko yasiyoweza kuzimwa. Bwana Gachagua alisema hayo baada ya msafara wake kushambuliwa kwa vitoza machozi kwa mara nyingine jana, akielekea katika ibada ya Jumapili kanisani Witima ACK Othaya, kaunti ya Nyeri. Katika vurugu zilizozuka, magari yaliharibiwa na wahuni, huku Bwana Gachagua akikariri wito wake kwa jamii ya kimataifa kuingilia kati. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa pili hapo. Habari nyingine hapa ni Aida ameza ndoano, akubali uteuzi wa Ruto kama balozi katika UNEP. Hatua hiyo inatazamwa kama afueni kwa Rais Ruto, ambaye juhudi zake za kupata uungwaji wa ODM zimekuwa zikipingwa na baadhi ya viongozi wa chama hicho. Sasa with this, will they
do you feel it changes anything? Do you feel it changes anything in as far as what is happening in ODM? Now that Ida Odinga has been given a government job. Yeah?
That is what this story is saying.
Interesting. Interesting.
Vidokezo zaidi, wizara ya kanusha gredi 10 wanalala tu. Wiki mbili tangu wajiunge, ripoti zasema masomo hayajaanza.
Hawana vitabu.
Hawana vitabu. Na watu wengine bado hawako. Anyway, serikali yasema haitabadilisha mfumo wa kura. Bunge liliitaka IEBC iweke mfumo wa kielektroniki kurahisisha upigaji kura hata bila kufika kituoni. Well, na kuna habari nyingine hapa. Wanjala sasa ni mali rasmi ya Valencia. Nahodha huyu wa kikosi cha Harambee Stars under 20 sasa kushiriki ligi kuu ya Uhispania. Habari hiyo katika ukurasa wa 20.
Congratulations to him.
Congratulations. On the top strip, wanajeshi wamvamia mke wa Bobby, alazwa. Mke wa mwanasiasa huyo akimbizwa hospitalini Uganda jamani.
Lakini unaona kwenye gazeti za Uganda huoni hizo habari. Ni congratulations to congratulations.
Hata kama ni wewe utaweka. Juhudi za kufufuliwa kwa ANC za pingwa. Usimchekele akishwali. Timami aliyekuwa naibu wa Mudavadi asema walijiunga UDA kihalali.
Wamekasirika kuambiwa hiyo chama bado iko. Koti ilisema ANC bado iko.
Go back home.
Enda ujenge hiyo nyumba. Alafu wamekasirika, tulibomoa nyumba hiyo, mbona watuambia turudi? Hakuna nyumba huko. People Daily, young, bold and battle-ready MPs taking head-on Ruto. And now they have a picture of the number of young at heart MPs who are totally opposed to President William Ruto's presidency. One of them is Ndindi Nyoro, Edwin Sifuna, Mbabu Owino, Mohamed Ali, Njeri Maina. And you know Mohamed Ali was one of his William Ruto's greatest supporters. Caleb Amisi, Gitonga Mukunji, Peter Salasia, Anthony Kibagendi, and Major Donk Gathiru. These are just some of the young MPs who've openly come out and said, we are not supporting President William Ruto's re-election. Now Fiji, na umesikia sasa wamesema they will push for one of their own to run for presidency come 2027. So toe to toe they call it, people and politics smart minds. So that's the main story there. The other story is on ODM, why the factional infighting will not end anytime soon. Hata wakipea Ida Odinga job, I don't think the fights within ODM are about to end. I don't think so.
In fact, hata inaweza ongeza.
Inaweza ongeza actually, because now once you give that family even more prominence, remember the feud is within the family. I saw a tweet by Raila Jr. saying, musini drag kwa hii maneno, hiyo siasa staki. So there's a family meeting on 1st of February. Oburu Oginga, the party leader, amesema watakutana kama familia ya Odingas, wadiscuss maneno. Sasa tunangoja kuona kama hiyo discussion itasaidia chama. Hii chama ni kama imesambaratika. Pale juu how a unified coast is replacing the mountain as the new kingmakers. Yes, cost what a support nani. That's the People Daily.
All right. Tukisonga mbele, the Daily Nation. The main story here is Wambui fights equity auction over 8 billion shillings debt. When President Ruto swapped to power, businesswoman Mary Wambui got lucky. The state dropped a 2.5 billion shillings tax evasion case against her. The traders' companies also went on to bag multi-billion shilling tenders to import foodstuff, as she too was appointed to a Plum State job. But her business empire is under threat from 8.2 billion shillings loans, with Equity Bank seeking to auction her flagship asset, Glee Hotel. Where?
Very beautiful hotel if you've been there.
Yes. Ile Glee, ile moja.
Ile moja.
8.2 billion shillings.
Unaona hapa, as a borrower, Glee Hotel has borrowed 6.186 billion shillings.
This is
Ingine imeborrow tena 9.9. That's a few shillings shy of a billion.
Yeah.
So the Glee Hotel peke yake is 7 billion shillings imeborrow. Hata hizi kampani zingine wanaitisha tu kidogo kidogo hapa.
Ms. Wambui says through her lawyer that the chairperson of Glee Hotel Limited confirmed that she is unable to pay the money because all her businesses were constrained to access credit facilities. Court battle reveals her investment in hospitality, real estate and aviation. This is very shocking.
It will be interesting to see how this turns out, because Mary Wambui was one of President William Ruto's greatest supporters.
Yes.
As he campaigned for the presidency, and that's why when he got into power, he awarded her with a Plum State job. She's a chairperson of the Communications Authority, I think. I don't know if she was moved from that, but she was among those people who were photographed quite a number of times with the president. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Will she be able to do this? Because even that 2.5 billion shilling tax tax bill that she had been given by KRA was wiped off.
Yes, she's the board chairperson of the Athi Waterworks Development Agency.
Right. Yes. Initially, I think she was at the Communications Authority. She must have moved.
All right. How Rogue Police planned attack on Gachagua is another story on page 7. We've made mention of it. Cost has lowest turnout of senior school students.
Sorry to stop you, but back on that story about the attack in Nodaya, the Daily Nation, what it has done, it gives an account by a police officer about the planning that went behind the scenes at least a week before yesterday. So that's, I think, one of the different takes, because most people are just talking about the attack. Now this one is from the police officer saying, I am aware of what happened. Yes. It's only the Daily Nation that has that angle. All
right. That story is on page 7. Ministry of Education says about 80,000 grade 10 learners are still at home nationwide. IDA welcomes Ruto diplomatic job offer. That's the story on page 6 in the Daily Nation. On the back page, the East Africa Pamoja 2027 AFCON bid promise and what is on the ground now. Preparations focus has shifted to the region with just 17 months remaining to the big kickoff in June next year. I saw a comment Nigerians were saying that AFCON can't take place in Kenya because we don't have roads.
We don't have roads.
We don't have
and
roads.
Nigeria has roads.
And electricity. No, I was there in the comment section. If you find me, I was defending Kenya.
Wanaongea kama watu wa Man U tufua. Kuna story when it comes to education on page 2.
Yes.
So apparently there's an accumulated debt of about 11 billion shillings owed to publishers. And this is the reason for the delay in distribution of grade 10 textbooks. So the government has to pay the 11 billion so that grade 10 can start learning. So it's true. Hawasomi, wamelala tu, hawana textbook. Serikali iko na deni. That story about Glee Hotel, it was spread up page 4 and 5. So it's an interesting story. Treasury rules out remote voting over low IBC trust. On the back page, ndio hiyo na Talanta Stadium. That stadium is so beautiful, by the way.
It is.
Yes. Waache kusema ati hatuna barabara. Hata reli tuko nayo. Watu wa Nigeria.
Hata stima tuko nayo.
Hata stima tuko nayo, sio kama jirani.
Actually, Nigerian pia hawana stima.
Hawana stima. From the Daily Nation, we take a look at the Star. Fresh, independent, different. A fresh NSSF raid on salaried to further erode take-home pay. Now, new rates will only apply to those earning 108,000 shillings and above. Those earning below that monthly do not need to worry. This story is on page 4 and 5. This thing has been happening. So anyone earning between 7,000, around 7,000, they'll be deducted 420. That's not changing. 9,000, they're being deducted 540. That's not changing. 50,000 is your salary. You're paying 3,000. That's not changing. Once you get to 108,000, now from the deduction you'll go to 4,320. It goes up to how much? 7,200. If you're earning more than $500,000, yes, you are paying 8,640. That goes up to 30,000. Yes. So that is how things are changing. So this is significant. Mimi najua salary yako iko hapa, najua pali uko na najua ile utadidaktiwa hapa, pole sana.
Koma. Koma wewe.
Right. Some of our guests are already in studio ahead of our State of the Nation. I can see Kathy Rungu and Bwana Orogo, Daniel Orogo already with us. Karibuni sana on set. Even as we continue taking a look at the dailies, just feel free to walk on set so that probably you can even engage with us as we continue with these discussions. Karibu sana. Yeah. It's good to see you this lovely morning.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Kathy, good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Morning.
Good to see you.
Yes. Even as we continue with this news review, of course, that story about the attack on the church in Othaya, Wetima village. I know Kathy comes from that area. And Ajua Wetima iko wapi. Those people are very peaceful. People in Othaya are very, I've been there enough times. They are very, washosho na waguka, very peaceful, watoto wadogo. Teargas, they will never forget. Gachagua teargas in Othaya church as ODM battle rages. So yes, what's happening in that front. So hapa kuna worshippers, worshippers wept. Residents scampering for safety after police fire tear gas into Wetima SEK Church in Othaya, where the former deputy president was. Kenya to feel the pinch after America finally withdraws from WHO. Now things are really changing. Na kuna ile threat even the UN will be affected once the US completely withdraws from the UN, which is the US remains the biggest financier of the UN. If they do, wacha hata ile plan alikuwa sema they are moving 80% of UN to Nairobi. Mutaitana. Mackenzie wars grow as police want him charged with kwa Binzaro deaths. Ule jamaa huko Shakahola ana shida. That story is on page 22. Wacha iendelee hata anatoka aende wapi. So that's the main story. Lakini NSSF wanakujia hiyo payslip yako wanakata kufieka. On the back page of this paper, it's Tusker moment. Tusker FC produced a composed yet dramatic display to edge out KCB at Kasarani Annex on Sunday. So local football making it to the back page of the Star. Fresh, independent, different. Grab yourself a copy.
All right, we take a look at the caricatures now, and we start off with the People Daily Star No Stake. Matters grade 10, no textbooks, grade 10, lakini kuna panya hapo.
Kuna panya hata hiyo imestuka, hakuna kitu ya kukula.
Wazazi wanauliza, where are the books?
There are no books.
Panya amekula.
At least tumeona your story on the Daily Nation. The government owes publishers 11 billion shillings, and that's why there are no books. Yeah, so ni ukweli, hawa watoto wanalala tu mashuleni. Wanakula tu bure na kulala.
That's the no stake.
All right. From the People Daily, we take a look at the Standard, and this one continues with what's happening in ODM. But hey, ODM bona sasa imevaa blue. See, I thought ODM is orange. There's no orange on this cartoon. Yet we're talking about ODM. Hata lazima andike ODM hapa because ukivaa blue sasa tutajua ni gani.
Tutajua ni Azimio.
So the party leader there in blue, anaelekea 2027, anasema, see my people, I am taking you to Canaan. Okay, sasa tunaenda wapi? Ni Canaan. Ni Singapore.
Singapore ni ya rais.
Huyu anatupeleka Canaan. Sasa akipeleka Canaan na anafanya broad based na rais anatupeleka Singapore.
Kama ni Canaan ni Canaan.
Hatujui tunaenda wapi.
All right, this is the Daily Nation. Still Matters grade 10, bursary campaign. Kuna trap hapo. Wanaita wanapewa bursary kumbe ni campaigns zinaendelea.
Politicians wanatumia bursary for campaigns. Hiyo ni ukweli hapo. Hapo kuna ukweli. And then the cartoon on the Star, it's the last one here. Kuna basi tatu, kuna basi mbili kubwa, moja ya green na yellow, ile rangi ya wheelbarrow, na ingine ni ya orange. Lakini hapa kuna kabasi kadogo, kale ka DCP. Kameleta shida. Watu wengine wanaruka kutoka kwa hii basi wakiingia hapa, wengine wanatoka wakiingia upande ile nyingine. Na hapa pia kuna wale wanataka kushuka kwa hii basi.
Wanang'ang'ania hii steering.
Wanaambia jamaa tunakutoa hapo mamlakani. Alafu kwa hii basi ingine ya UDA kuna ule jamaa aliambiwa chama yake bado haijafungwa. Anasema no, mimi nilivunja chama, hukuvunja, rudi kwa hiyo chama. Can you imagine being forced to go back to a party you dissolved? It's the most embarrassing thing. Anyway, these are the dailies.
All right.
Once again, Kathy Rungu will be with us. Governance expert will be with us. Daniel Orogo, political analyst, they're already in studio with us this morning. They'll be joined by Mesha Kodede, political commentator, as well as Murigi Kamandi, who's an advocate of the High Court. So do stand by as we take a look at the headlines this morning.
All right. Once again, Monday Blitz will be coming up next for weekend sports. Lakini we already see you online. Memko, you wanted to say something about Monday Blitz?
Wacha tu niwache.
Beatrice Ngeni anasema 29 iko juu sana. Steven Kosira, good morning Fred and Ann, poleni kwa hayo mambo ya jana, msijali watasahau tu. Leo ni nyinyi, kesho ni wao. Asante sana Steven.
Mpira ya wazungu wetu.
You will go to heaven, Steven. JJ Wina anasema Kiswahili wewe. Okay. Larry Paul, huyo wa Vinya Ndeti mmeconfirm kama ako sawa?
Yes, sijaelewa hapo.
Hata mimi sijaelewa. Kuna mtu anacheka tu hapo. Advice Pastor Emmanuel Barasa Manu anasema morning from Kitengela, well represented, the biggest team in the whole world and some parts of heaven tuko top 4. Ati team kubwa Manchester United. Okay.
Wako na points 3 hapo alafu wako top 4. Yenyewe hii ligi huwa inadanganya watu sana.
Vincent Ombati.
Vincent Ombati anasema now we are remaining with Wamama FC. That's Chelsea. Hey, watu wa Man U kiburi ile wako nayo leo. Wow. Haya, Francis Okanga says where great conversations are made as we break the day off. Thank you so much. And Fred Mokua ameweka tu #Morning Cafe TV47. Gideon Dambuki, Morning Cafe. Josh Ngetich, keep it Morning Cafe. Asanteni sana. Akoth Marceline, yes, the best place to be, TV47. Bonaya Humanitarian says a reliable show, Morning Cafe. Janet Mkenya, well noted, the best show. Asante sana.
Doris Ruto, best show. Well done, Korira. Very on. Ngilu Matesha. Okay. Faith Kitiliti. Ama Kitilit. You have a very beautiful name, Faith. Kitilit. Very nice. All right. Cheryl Magain anasema will be tuned. All right. Interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, on X. At TV47 Digital, thank you so much for waking up with us so far. You can tag us on X. My handle is @Ann_Odida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe TV47.
My handle on X is @FredIndimuli. See you after the break.
Big ideas deserve Excuse. It's time to run. Right. And oh. Your more things. Join chat every Monday to Friday.
January 25th, 2026. Sunday morning, worshippers at SEK Witima Church in Othaya, Nyeri County were forced to flee after tear gas canisters were hurled inside the church. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who had just arrived for prayers, says police officers fired live ammunition, used tear gas, and torched his vehicle in what he describes as a government-sponsored attack.
They injured women and children and hurt many people. The police torched one of my vehicles, KDK 002, a Toyota Land Cruiser. They deflated tires of all the people who were in church and caused untold damage to vehicles.
Gachagua explained that 15 police officers, together with guards linked to a Murang'a politician, were involved in the assault. This is not the first time Gachagua's faced hostility during church services. Earlier this month, his convoy was blocked in Kirinyaga, and in November last year, police fired tear gas during a service in Kariobangi North, Nairobi County. Wiper Patriotic Front Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka and Jubilee Party leaders have strongly condemned the attack against Gachagua, while government-allied politicians accused Gachagua of planning the attack for sympathy.
Yaani sasa haiwezekani kwamba muundo wa siasa zetu umefikia kiwango hicho.
Stop manipulating people of Kenya, lying to the people of Kenya, all manner of propaganda to the people of Kenya, to the extent of carrying goons, hooligans, carrying guns and tear gas to a church.
Where can we get access to tear gas? Is it sold in a supermarket or in Gikomba? Where do we get access to AK-47 assault rifles? Where do we get access to government land cruisers? Where do we get access to police uniform? We can't.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has condemned the incident, saying violence in places of worship is unacceptable. Murkomen has promised swift investigations and that those responsible would face legal action. The National Police Service, through spokesperson Mushiri Nyaga, says investigations into the matter has commenced. The Inspector General of Police directed the Internal Affairs Unit to move in with speed and commence investigations with the deserved urgency. Police claimed that there were no reports of injuries. However, Gachagua has dismissed Murkomen's statement, insisting that the perpetrators are known and that the attacks against him are carried out with the knowledge of authorities.
Murkomen cannot tell the people of Kenya that they are going to investigate anything. The police cannot investigate themselves. The vehicle's number are here, Kipchumba Murkomen. These police officers' images are circulating on social media. So what are you telling us you have asked the IG to investigate? You cannot investigate yourself. This is a government attack, well known to Kipchumba Murkomen. Stop pretending.
Even as government pledges action, many questions have emerged. Who planned the attack? Who exactly was involved? For now, residents of Nyeri and the nation at large remain anxious, awaiting answers as confrontations at Rigathi Gachagua's rallies continue to escalate. Joash Onsare, TV 47.
These are the unfortunate scenes, 18 months to the next election. On the Daily Nation, page 7, officer reveals plan of Gachagua church attack. This is a police officer. He claims a team of 15 was formed in Nairobi to work with a group of youth from Nyeri. Speaks about police involvement in this matter, and that's why the police service has begun an internal investigation through their internal mechanisms, meaning that they do acknowledge the involvement of police in that attack. It is that we want to discuss this morning, the involvement of security agencies in politics. We've seen what has happened in Uganda, we've seen what has happened in Tanzania, now we're seeing it in Kenya. This morning we're privileged to have with us Daniel Orogo, political analyst, karibu sana.
Pleasure.
Kathy Rungu, governance expert, and Mesha Kodede, who's a social and political commentator, karibuni sana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think at this point, let's move on from, because I've seen online and there's a lot of government bloggers talking about how Gachagua must have stage managed the attack on himself and such like things, but that's besides the point. It is obvious that there was police involvement in this attack, whether stage managed or direct attack. That is what we want to probe. The use of security agencies in a politically volatile moment. Daniel, what is your assessment of this? Fine, the accusations, politicians will say, okay, you stage managed, you did this or the other. Involvement of guns, tear gas in a church where police clearly, we've seen the videos.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. And it's a pleasure to be here this morning to speak to the viewers and those who are keen on matters that are happening right now, and probably give my take of the state of the nation right now. Of course, anxiety. The last time, coincidentally, we were in the panel, we discussed about violence. If you can remember very well, if we talked about political violence as a tool for suppression, as a tool for fear, and to cause panic and to subject people to unnecessary, a state of panic. Coincidentally, again this morning, we're here talking about violence again. I have seen, and as you've alluded to, these allegations from all over, whether it is something that was planned by the opposition side, and I see people saying that probably it was a script that had been written and enacted, unfortunately, at the place of worship. And to that extent, the tears, crocodile tears, and that led to the worshippers weeping and reeling in the background of tear gas. Remember, it's a center of worship, a holy place. On the other end, it is alleged that, and I see I was reading through the page 7 of the Daily Nation and the account of how this was planned as early as Friday. And clearly, as you've alluded to, meticulous plan from the security agencies, which I don't know whether they are police or they are retired police or people who are reservists, but it's indeed that it was meticulously planned and tear gas canisters were used. And the question that is being asked is whether it is scripted or whether it is planned.
Should that really worry us at this time?
Should that really be a problem? Because the problem is that there is violence.
And the use of police.
There is the use of police force in appearances. And there is goonism. A masked man. This is the issues of extrajudicial force we've been talking about. And therefore, I am really also concerned, just like you've mentioned that 18 months to the general elections, we are treated to pictures of attacks. We are treated to pictures of, the use of force, and tear gas canisters are the very places where we least expect that to happen. So probably is a pointer towards the months that we are having and we are left with, that these are scenes that will be treated to.
Yes.
In our images, in our dailies, in watch with social media, that we are seeing a state of violence setting a pace in our political rallies and places where we least expect them. A violation of the Constitution, of political rights of expression, a violation of Constitution as a right to participate in politics, in political matters.
Kathy, of course the debate has now been reduced to who planned it. Either way, it was planned. People sat down and planned this. Whether scripted or otherwise, people sat down and planned it. And in their script, the police was involved. And that is my worry, that even if it's Gachagua who staged, if he has that kind of access within the police service, shouldn't that be worrying us?
It should. And thank you very much, Ndimuli. I think I would like to give you some little background about Witima area, because it's a place I'm quite familiar with. Witima is a silent village in Othaya. It's a village that produces very good arrowroots, and therefore it's a market. It's a marketplace most of the time. People traveling to Murang'a and Nairobi will stop there to do their shopping, either to buy arrowroots or other farm produce. Now, having known Othaya and campaigned there, Othaya is our silent sister, because Nyeri has 6 constituencies and Othaya is one of them. Othaya is a bit timid, politically speaking, because Othaya is not like Madeira and Kieni, where politics is, happens to be a little volatile. I come from Madeira, which kind of...
We've heard about...
Yeah. But there's something, I want to point out something. In Madeira, we have never known peaceful campaigns or peaceful elections, including right from the 80s, What I can remember is like late 80s, because I was a young girl, early 90s, through to where we are today. Madeira is known for violence, political violence, and the kind of violence you saw there I mean, personally, as someone who comes from the county, I didn't expect to see that in Nyeri. There are some constituencies in Nyeri that are known for sobriety. Othaya is home to the late His Excellency Mwai Kibaki, and his version and the way he did his politics was quite different. Again, different from how people from Madeira behave and how we do our politics. And therefore, we could be exporting a bit of bad manners from my constituency. And I say that boldly because I know the area. Having said that, first of all, and I agree with you totally, as someone who has been subjected to political violence before, and I know for sure at some point the police were used to assault me openly in a meeting, to a large extent I'm not surprised that the police are being used now. But then the question is, if we are saying that the police are being used by the opposition, I think that is what should worry us. Because most of the time, the law enforcement agencies will be aligned to the government. If there are now tendencies and occurrences where the opposition has a hand in this, because we really don't know. Until this issue is investigated properly and we get to know what exactly happened, that should worry us, because then it would mean that we are talking about a divided force. So maybe the one, and I've listened to the party leader of DCP, and I am in no way supporting what happened to him yesterday. It is very unfortunate, and he does not deserve it. If it is the government meting this kind of violence on him, really, it is wrong. However, there's a time he said publicly on national TV that he said, and I quote, that I have people in NIS, I have people in the police service who feed me with information. That is very telling, and that should worry us. Okay. Now, if it is the government doing this, and it is not beyond the government, and I say this because when the Gen Zs went to the streets, and I quote them all the time, we saw the number of policemen who were on the street masked, and you couldn't identify them. You remember, what happened to the young people? They were abducted, they were killed, and all manner of things. And at that point, we saw policemen who were protecting the goons on the streets of Nairobi. So again, going by that evidence, it is not beyond the government to have that kind of, a group of policemen who are out to violate the rights of people in the opposition.
Right.
And
So, Bwana Odede, 18 months to election, we saw what happened with the by-elections of November last year, and the kind of violence witnessed even in places like Homa Bay and others. Now, we seem to have gotten to a level where we've normalized political violence to a point where the police or security agencies are now involved. What does that signal 18 months to the next election?
Thank you, Fred. One, police involvement in the violence we saw yesterday cannot be denied. It's undeniable because we are both Kenyans, we saw police. Unless somebody wants to say we don't know police when we see one. The media were there, the cameras were there, so police was definitely involved. But police has a chain of command. That's where the conversation should go. The chain of command needs to confirm to the country whether they sent police to actually maintain law and order or create violence, which we saw. If they sent the police to maintain law and order, then the investigation should go deeper to find out how did violence find itself in the presence of the police then, because the presence of the police itself should actually tell or scare away anybody who wants to bring violence. This is why we sometimes guard places where we have treasures. Sometimes it is not because we know definitely there's going to be violence. We're just saying when the people who might be planning anything see the presence of the police, then they should stay away and be sure that this place is guarded, well guarded. So when we see the police present, we first assume as the citizen of this country that the police is here to maintain law and order, to also send a signal that whoever wanted to bring any form of violence is not allowed, will be arrested and be taken to court. But this is not what we see. At the end of the day, we see violence and the police gets in the mix. So that should actually tell. But the most unimaginable thing is we have made it as a country a little bit normal. And this is not because it is new to us. Some of us who have followed Raila forever knows and actually feel nothing. Let me be honest to the nation. We actually got to a point there we feel nothing because it has been the order of the day. And if I want to remind the nation this morning, it got to a point, Kathy, let me tell you when I started feeling nothing about this thing. It is when the former IG stood before the media and said Raila and his team went and hired the dead bodies in the morgue to actually make the name of the police bad. Then how do you want me, people who are involved in those protests and saw those killings and saw what the police did, how do you now want me to be conscious again? I also died, the feelings died. So I was just watching those things and I'm like, I'm not sure whether it's a bad thing or a good thing because that's the normal life we've lived on the street. But now finally, to come and conclude the government of the day, it is not just the government of William Ruto. Any government of the day knows they are supposed to answer to the people. Whether it is stage managed or not, at the end of the day, Bwana Rigathi and his team have nobody to answer to as at now. It is the government who took the oath that we will protect the life and property of all Kenyans within the borders and outside. That is the person who needs to give the answer. So whether the violence was stage managed, then the question still goes, where was the government when somebody plans, because these things take time to plan. So when somebody plans and hatch the plan, do we have intelligence in this country? Because that's the basic question now. If government claims on the table today that they were actually acting, they actually stage managed, then the question still from a perspective of a citizen like me would be, are you government? Do you have intelligence? What did you do? Because that is what you took oath to do. Even today, I'm not allowed to take my own life. I should be arrested before I take that life, because that is what government took oath to protect.
Are you concerned about the possibility that even within the police service, there could be elements of goonism that are up for hire? Because they talk about, on the Daily Nation, a team of 15 was brought together for this deal. This is a police service, and you talked about the chain of command.
It is not even there could be. It has been there. Many years back, we had the former governor of Nairobi saying, this is what we used to do. And they were in government of the day that time. They used to do with who? With police and everybody who is in that hierarchy. We will do this, tutachoma magari, and then we will, when they are doing that, they should actually alert the police to be away from that place so that magari yanze kuchomeka ndio polisi wakuje. So whichever way, we are not doubting that police sometimes gets involved, either from this left or that right. But the question should be to the government all the time. So government should not even tell us whether it is opposition or government. The question always goes to the government.
Yes, Kathy, just one more comment before we take a break.
Very quickly, because he got me, I was actually thinking about what my brother here has said. It is almost natural that when a certain part of the population is on the opposition side, or rather perceived to be on the opposition, these kind of things will always happen. In fact, I remembered, just as he made that statement, I remembered when, as Azimio went to the streets in the year 2022 and early 2023, I remembered the things that happened to us. And the same people in the opposition today, led by the party leader of DCP, they were more or less threatening us with violence. So it happens that whenever a section of the politicians take power, they take power and guard it so viciously such that they can do anything to protect that power. And every time you think about violence and how people are attacked on the streets and killed, maimed, and all these kind of things, you really want to say that we need to revise not just the laws, but even the way we do our politics. Because these believe that immediately you get into power and grasp it, then you have to do everything possible to protect it. That is where the problem starts.
Because we need to take a break, just 30 seconds. You need to add something.
When those post-election riots after the 2022 general election that led to early 2023 street protests, Fred, I remember this studio here, and then we talked about the need, and we condemned that violence that were meted on the Azimio protesters. I remember that very well in this set. And there we say that it was not right by police or by agencies of security, professional as the National Police Service. It's no longer a police force. It was transformed to be a police service, which means that in their dignity of service, they should be professional in delivery of security to everyone. And I don't agree. Just like I condemned it in 2022 and 2023, I condemn it right now. Because we understood that there was a need to safeguard a country, that even if Raila and the protestants, Honorable Raila Odinga was protesting against the outcome of election and the need for reforms, there was no need for anyone who was a masked man to move closely and shoot as a close range. And therefore our failure by that time to condemn that wholly as a people has led us back to here, where we are saying that it is okay for any violence to be meted at the members of opposition right now, because they promoted it and they didn't stand against it in 2022 or 2023. And I hope even as we speak, even as we try to wait for investigation on this, we as a people must condemn that there is, a police force is a very professional police, and agencies of security must act professionally so that to safeguard the security of all parties.
Yes.
And in the furtherance of constitution. I think this is something that we must say, because if we don't condemn it today, tomorrow again it will be meted to another political functions. Who did not stand right at this particular time?
Exactly.
Yes.
18 months to elections, and the kind of violence we are seeing is definitely worrying. But this one goes straight to the doorstep of the IG of police. Are you running a rogue police service? You need to answer to Kenyans. Well, let's take a short break. When we come back, we continue with our discussions.
No more excuses. It's time to rise, grind, and own your mornings. Join Coach Shadrach Ouma every Monday to Friday from 5:30 to 6 a.m. only. TV 40s. Full body workouts. Equipment. Maximum stay. TV 7 fitness with Coach Shadrach. On TV. Seven.
Yes, Daily Nation talks about how rogue police planned attack on Gachagua. It's there on the front page of the Daily Nation. This the same story on the Standard. President, stop this, and the Standard decides to take it straight to the doorstep of the president, notwithstanding the fact that the police service is independent under the IG. Yes, Gachagua Teargas in Othaya Church is also there on the front page of the Star. We do have an advocate of the High Court with us this morning. Wakili Morigi Kamande, karibu sana.
Asante.
Morning. And I'd like your comment on this, the obvious use, a rather very obvious use of police in political violence. It doesn't matter who planned it. Definitely it was planned.
Yes.
But the rather obvious use of police officers in political violence. What's your take on that?
You know, it is unfortunate when we get this as a nation. And when the Standard blames the president, I think it's the right thing to do. We cannot just blame the IG and say that the police is independent. That with the kind of violence that we are seeing, being meted by the police or with the assistance of the police, if the president was serious about it, the first person to have been asked would have been IG Kanja. And the question you ask yourself is Kanja being set up? Because you cannot have a situation where every Sunday or every other Sunday that violence is being meted on a certain sector of the political divide in certain areas with certain populations, and then the IG remains silent, or they just issue a statement that tells you from the face of it that, okay, maybe we knew about it and we couldn't even act. Yeah? So what is happening right now is being sanctioned by government. You cannot say that we have rogue police officers. You cannot have rogue police officers. There can only be rogue police officers if there's no presence of the police officers, and that's my position. That whatever happened yesterday and what we saw, you had a police car that was there. I think 2 police vans, the police cars were there, and then there was the PSV Matatu, yeah? And then these hooded police officers. Do you know what they remind us of? They remind us of June. That we had these kind of police officers that were involved in the killing of the Gen Zs, the young people on the streets. Yes? And so when Gachagua comes out and says, okay, we have a rogue section of the police officers that is killing citizens, that is either under the command of the IG or the command of the DG of the NIS, or even Masengeli himself, who is the deputy DIG, then we should ask very many questions. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Is this a precedent that is being set? Is this what Kenyans are being told, that going forward, anything or anybody who is opposed to government will be meted with force? Mm-hmm. Yeah? So I think it is absurd when we get to a situation like this. And for me, the most unfortunate thing is that the police feigns ignorance, that they do not know. We have photographs of people holding AK-47. Nobody has come out to say that that is so and so. Yeah? If it's a member of the public, let us be told who that member of the public is. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Let us be told those GK vehicles are attached to which police stations. Let us be told why, for 20 minutes, when that church was under siege, where was the OCS of Othaya police station? Where was the OCPD? Where were the police officers of that area? Unless they were coordinating with them, there's no way you can say that the government was not involved.
You know, we've been observing the elections in Tanzania and now recently in Uganda. And when you talk to Kenyans, they believe that our situation is so different. We are much better. Our democracy has grown. But this is exactly what we're seeing in Uganda and Tanzania. How different are we, Bwana Orogo? How different is Kenya? If at all, the scenes we witnessed yesterday were to go by 18 months to election.
I mean, the only difference, and what Kenya really hold into is the promise of the Constitution. And by the fact that relatively the country appears to gravitate towards an understanding of what the law says about certain elements. It's the reason as to why we are here this morning, calling to responsibility and accountability of the agencies, even as independent offices like the police service and the rest of the agencies. I mean, but clearly it is not far from us. I mean, even as we boast of our robustness of our constitution and the promise that we have, it is not far-fetched, because other countries had just had the elections, and normally there is a template. There's a spirit of violence that goes around. There's a spirit of strongmen who would want to retain power, as my sister was mentioning, that you can clearly see within our borders. We saw even the last weeks, I think, in Uganda, where there's still a litany of cases where there's disappearances of members of the National Unity Platform, the party that the opposition party. There is there was a massive deployment of the army during elections. And those scenes are replete to what Wakili has just talked about. We are still reeling from the deployment of heavy gunmen on the streets when there was Gen Z protest. So if you look at that within just a simple map of conflict mapping, you could exactly see that the scenes are quite similar in these two important, East African countries.
Yes.
It is actually, if you were to, to split the screen and see what is happening in Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania in different aspects. Except that the two countries, it is just an electoral period. But in Kenya, it was a period of call for accountability, which then you can see the semblance. So there is fear. There is indeed fear whether we are still able to stand, amidst this political violence that is setting a precedence towards 18 months as we head to elections. And I know probably you'd want to intervene, but I forgot to say, I completely agree with what Wakili and probably Meshach and my sister is talking about. When the call for accountability will come, it's an individual who the buck stop with that will be held responsible. Fred, we had an ICC came calling in 2007 post-election violence. And among the 6 suspects that you saw, there was one Inspector General of Police by that time. There was a police responsible for that. And I think we've not forgotten as a country.
And that is the only instance probably we saw assemblies of
that when you can be used, to cause violence around because of the position you hold, but when the cause for accountability will come, you'll be personally responsible held.
Let's be honest,
for your position.
Kathy and Meshach, you just talked about the fact that in 2023 there was violence meted out on Kenyans, those supported Azimio. No one was held accountable. Up till today. And if you compare Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania, or fine, you might say in Uganda or Tanzania, the violence was really around the elections. But in Kenya, it would appear immediately after the 2022 elections, there's been that violence till now. 2 things, my friend Fred. Number one, the holders of power want to retain power by all means. And I think that's where I started from. And that is what was happening in 2022, 2023. Because they felt that, no, yes, it is a contested election, but we are not going to let this go. And therefore, they had to do all these things that they did, maiming, killing, and even chest thumping, because they came out very boldly and told us, hamutajaribu kutokea tena kwa street. When someone says that, they're simply threatening you that come back to the street, you will not go home back. You will not go back home alive. Now, what is happening currently, what we are seeing today, remember, first of all, let's appreciate that election in this country is not an event. It is a process. And that process in Kenya starts immediately we declare this individual a winner. The opposition start their opposition politics immediately. Now, we perpetually, as a country, are in a campaign mode. And that happens all the time. And even you, the media, I think we give a lot of prominence to politics. Every day, look at all our papers, look at social media, it is awash with politics. And therefore, to me, I feel like there's a lot of fear peddling happening now, so that you scare off the opposition and say, no, you know what? This is the person you're contesting against. And that did not start yesterday. What has happened now, it seemed to have escalated from the time Rigathi Gachagua was impeached. Because immediately he was impeached, he went to the streets, he went to the, back to Mount Kenya region, for example, and other places, and started, emotionally manipulating and mobilizing the people and showing them as if these impeachment is about the community. Yet it is about an individual to me. So the government, the side of government is fear peddling. The side of opposition, especially the one that is led by Rigathi Gachagua, is not doing better. In fact, they're the ones who started it, Fred. At some point they said, if you see, they told the public in Mount Kenya region, and this I think was in Madeira where I come from, that if you see these people who follow William Samoei Ruto, the president, do not allow them to step into certain areas, do not allow them to speak. So to a very large extent, they set the pace. Okay. And let me tell you where the problem is. When two big politicians, and in most cases it is men, go for each other's neck, and they start saying this and the other about each other. At the end of the day, the people who suffer most are women, children, and the elderly. And I saw that in Udaya yesterday. Bona Odede, as we continue drawing comparisons in the region: Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. We pride ourselves that our protection comes from the Constitution. Yet, even with that new Constitution, since 2023, all this violence where security agencies have been involved, there's not been any accountability. So where does the Constitution come in? If police can be used to kill, shoot, maim for political expediency without consequence, if at all that can happen, should we not fear that also come next year, a lot more could happen? The internet could be shut down. After all, we keep saying Constitution, Constitution without consequence.
Thank you, Fred. The truth is, the Constitution 2010 was not supposed to be the end itself. It was supposed to be the means to an end, where we can have a country with democracy and probably practice certain things. But that now tells us that the comparison is okay. The truth is, the difference between Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, among other countries in the East Africa community, compared to Kenya, would be, we are talking about it this morning. And we are calling out on the government to take responsibility about the violence, because they are the ones who took oath to protect the life and property of Kenyans. When other countries, maybe they come to Kenya to talk about it. Ugandans come to Kenya to talk about it, to demonstrate about it. Tanzania probably fear about talking about it in Tanzania until they are near the borders around Loitoktok, so that if it goes bad, they can cross over, and other countries. So that's the only difference. So the violence still happens, but Kenya is priding itself to be ahead, because we are here this morning, you and I and Kathy, talking about it. Yeah. And in Uganda, we couldn't be in any of their studio to talk about it. That's the only difference. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wakili, do you share the same optimism about this Constitution we so pride ourselves with, if at all, up till now? And we've talked about violence that happened to the Gen Zs. We've talked about violence that was meted out on Azimia supporters when they protested. Up until now, there's been no consequence. What tells you that next year things will not go whichever direction someone wants and without consequence?
You know, unfortunately, I do not share that optimism. Then I'll be very honest. we might have freedoms, but the question you ask yourself, what kind of government are you dealing with? Is it a government that obeys the rule of law? You have a rogue government right now, a government that even with the issuance of hundreds of court orders, they do not even obey them. Even when you have people rising against it in terms complaining every day, they do not care. Let me tell you, what happened yesterday, and I'm sorry to use this term, was an FU moment that we can do whatever we want, and there's nothing you can do it. And it started in 2023. Yeah? So that government believes that whatever you do, we either give an explanation or we let it slide.
So we can switch off the internet next year.
Of course.
And just explain it later.
Can I tell you something? If they did switch, you remember, was it last year? They went all the way to Limuru and switched off TV stations. Yeah? I can tell you, there was a suggestion, was it last year by Kabogo, that they would switch off the internet. Don't be surprised if they do it.
So it could happen next year.
It can happen. And you know, chances are it will happen. It has happened before. And the unfortunate thing is, and what I'm saying is, we have people in this country who are cheering it on. Yeah? Injustice to anyone is injustice to everyone. If we just sit down and watch this government go rogue, yeah, and think that it is only regarding who's being targeted, it's only a part of the opposition that is being targeted, they'll come for all of us. And by the time they come for all of us, there'll be nobody to stand for us.
And no one will be held accountable.
And nobody will be held accountable. You see, the most unfortunate thing, and I'll say this, if we go back to 2007, was it yes, post-election violence of 2007, 2008, there had been that cultivated culture of impunity going on, yeah? And we saw there was a change after people were taken to the ICC. Even the way politics was conducted post-2007, we had elections in 2013. If you could tell the way elections were conducted in 2013, there was a change in attitude, there was a change in the way people operate in government. That even within the state agencies, people know that responsibility is individual. So they would take care. Right now, you have people who've been given assurance they will not be taken anywhere. And that's the reason why they're behaving the way they are.
Yes, 18 months to elections, and we are really worried about the obvious use of state resources and the police in political violence.
Fred, but by the fact that we are talking about it, and I like what Meshaka said, there is, it is a constitution that was promulgated by Kenyans who understood the need to have it, after painstakingly demanding for a new constitution. And I was hoping Wakili was going to be very optimistic about, you know,
it is 15 years since we promulgated this constitution.
By the fact, it's not all gloomy. It's not all gloomy.
We've talked about how many people have been killed in this country since 2020.
But I think there's some levels.
Without
we have court cases that are holding the police officers accountable. There are investigations that are going on. I mean, I have a huge hope in this country, and that's why I've said that we just only need to use the instruments and the powers that we have as we speak right now. And as Meshach has said it, the heritage that we have as a Kenyan is by the fact that we have a freedom to speak about some issues, however much gloomy it sounds, but we still speak about them.
All right. Online here, I can see some people are also commenting. Dennis Ocheng says, disrespecting the church and innocent kids is not the right competition. Politicians must stop this. Me, I'm not even concerned about the politicians. Their bad behavior is known from way back. It is an obvious use of state security agencies without consequence that I'm worried about going forward. Yeah. Engineered division, which is well calculated by the planners, that's Milka or Maina. And then again, we keep going to politicians, oh, you're the good one, you're the bad one. That doesn't matter. Politicians have never been the best of people in Kenya. It is the obvious use of police in political violence that we're talking about. 18 months to the election. Is that what we're looking forward to? Anyway, let's move on. Still talking about politics, and a lot of talk about what's happening in ODM. And we've covered stories here about the ongoing plans to continue with the UDA-ODM coalition. ODM delegates have endorsed UDA talks. Let's have that story as we set the pace for this discussion.
All eyes will be on State House on Monday as the United Democratic Alliance holds a special National Governing Council meeting, bringing together the party's top leadership at a time of heightened political activity. The meeting, chaired by President William Ruto, comes as UDA and ODM move with speed to formalize coalition talks that could reshape the political landscape ahead of the 2027 election. Party insiders indicate the session is expected to endorse a framework for negotiations, outlining the scope of engagement, key principles, and the leadership mandate to push the talks forward.
Tutakuwa na kongamano la National Governing Council ambacho ni kiungo kinachojumlisha viongozi wote waliochaguliwa.
The anticipated coalition follows months of cooperation between the two sides in parliament and at the grassroots, with allies framing the move as a bid for political stability and a broader national alliance.
The 10-point agenda has given us a basis for working with the ODM. We have achieved some of the proposals that were made therein.
However, the talks are also likely to raise questions around power sharing, party interests, and internal cohesion, as both camps weigh the political costs and benefits of a formal pact.
The President has been very clear on the need to unite the nation, and so in that effort, we are reaching out to everybody. So let it be known that the Kenya Kwanza partners remain the partners of UDA.
Hivyo ndivyo nchi inabadilika. Monday's meeting could therefore mark a critical turning point, setting the stage for either a new political alliance or deeper debate as the road to 2027 takes shape. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
Even as UDA delegates and members of that party look forward to the meeting today, even ODM, on the other hand, are also expressing their desire and excitement around these talks and even their prospect of joining UDA. Let's watch this next story.
Speaking on Sunday in Kisii County during a popularization tour of the UDA-ODM merger tour by a battalion of ODM top brass, the ODM leader Oburu Odinga has said they will uphold the party's dignity intact as left by its party founder, the late Raila Odinga.
If we let this party go, it will be a big letdown to my brother. It will be a big letdown to the people of Kenya, who rely on this party to expose and espouse the issues of justice for the country.
The party has faced dissenting voices within its members, with the faction calling on the ouster of its leadership to the youthful generation.
Kwa sasa, njia ni two political formations in this country. Aidha sisi kama chama cha ODM tukae hapa kwa broad base na tushikane na ile mrengo ambayo inaamua ya kwamba kila Mkenya anafaa kuwa na maendeleo na kuwe ndani ya serikali.
Despite rife sibling rivalry, the warring faction within the party allude to the fact that a National Delegates Council will ultimately quell the political heat within its members.
I want to assure our members of ODM that we will stabilize the vote. I know in the party we have seen pressure groups, caucuses coming up. That's an unhealthy party. But for sure, under the leadership of Daktari Oburu, we will stabilize the vote.
Na hii mambo ya building the broad base government na twende mbele na negotiation na like-minded parties tukianzia na UDA. Hiyo ndio itakuwa NDC ambayo tutakuwa nayo.
However, the leadership states that it will hold a series of rallies across the country to a flawless approval before the NDC to be planned later on.
We are moving forward. We are not against anybody, and our party is not a party for expelling people. We are not going to expel anybody from the party. We want our party to grow. We want our party to grow from strength to strength.
Twende Turkana, twende Kajiado, twende kila mahali, alafu tutarudi Nairobi. Na wakati hiyo tunaomba NDC iitishwe.
For TV47, I'm Willie Dennis Njero.
Interesting times. Even as that happens, on page 5 of the Standard, ODM split widens as Sifuna-led wing vows to contest 2027 presidency. I'm telling you, mambo inachemka. But now, it's obvious the excitement within ODM, the coalition. They look much more excited and much more interested in this. But looking at the other side, and it's UDA, and you could hear the chairperson, Cecily Mbarire, trying to allude to the fact that there could be people within the Kenya Kwanza coalition who are a bit uncomfortable with this. Definitely there will be casualties, and that is what I want us to focus on. ODM, yes, is excited about getting into this coalition, but on the other side, kuna vilio zinakaribia. Do you agree, Bwana Orogo, that yes, it is not that easy to form a coalition? There are people who are very uncomfortable about this.
I thought you would start with Meshach, and it was quite interesting. I wanted to hear Meshach's views on this. But yes, I mean, normally I look at what's happening in political parties, and especially the United Democratic Alliance and the ODM in this context, and probably even in the United Opposition. First of all, let's say that what's going on is quite normal for any political parties. There is a lot of shift in alliances, and we will expect this to happen throughout, because now you just said it's 18 months, and every political party would want to get the better footing, better part of it. Now, the Orange Democratic Movement as a political party, a party that has indicated normally that it stands for democracy, both external and internal democracy, is really at a point, well, just a tipping point. The ODM that was founded on the legacy of the late Honorable Raila Odinga envisioned the views of internal democracy within. And you could see the posture of the late Honorable Raila that even they were pushed to get Sifuna out of position. But he said everyone must be heard within the party. And to a point where, to some extent, he even reiterated that if you hear Sifuna speaks, know that he's me speaking. Mm-hmm. And I think besides that, there has been a movement, a general plot on the split of which side is the party now taking, by the fact that there's one gravitated towards confirming the agenda, forming the merger with UDA, using the 10-point agenda, which is again a controversial issue, because a number of those points within the 10-point agenda has generally been violated by the United Democratic Alliance as, a party that is governing against the wishes of what the persona and the late leader of ODM would actually stand for. And I think you could actually see that is what, the factions of Sifuna and Babu and, and Orengo and Winnie is pushing towards. That even as the party gravitates towards, looking for alliances and talking to people, there are issues that are yet to be sorted within, especially matters that were raised at the 10-point agenda. Fred, let me touch a little bit on that because of time. My view is with respect to, the 10-point agenda, there is a point of conversation. And I've seen Cherio talking about it. I've seen Barire talking about it, that our merger, the prospective merger, is towards the agreement that was signed. You look at that agreement, it deals with matters of appointment of young people to the positions. It deals with matters of, avoiding police abduction and use of violence. We are talking about that as a first agenda. Matters that looking towards a national reconciliation, reconcile the nation. The nation is healing from, bloodshed and conflict and violence. So, I wonder, definitely, what really happens when we purport, as UDA is purporting towards reaching an agreement with ODM on the 10-point agenda, but on the other end, they're violating the 10-point agenda. And on this other side, the factions of Oburu is talking about reaching out. By the way, I am not a member of ODM, I'm a member of the United Grain Movement Party, but I'm looking at this with the posture of a political party as an institution of democracy. That you talk about issues, you respect those issues. ODM, being a party that was, the government usually reach out to ODM. You could hear the history. Look at Kibaki reached out to Raila. The 2008 post-election violence to sign the National Accord. Post that, Uhuru reached out to Raila on the handshake. Ruto reached out to Raila. But right now, we are seeing a situation where ODM is proposing, is the one going to government. So it's quite, I would want to hear the points of Odedo.
Probably let's go to
It's quite interesting.
Kathy, I'll come to you. But it looks, yes, that ODM is really interested in this. Much more than UDA probably, because UDA appears a bit reluctant. Probably they've realized that yes, there will be casualties within the party once ODM comes, because definitely they'll occupy space. But Odede, ODM appears very much excited, probably even begging for this merger, don't you think?
I don't think so, Fred. Why would anybody say it is ODM begging when we both know how we got here? Because it is not something that ODM started. It is something that Kenyans started when they went to the street. When ODM went to the street, they came back, there was NADCO, and there was a conversation going on which was led by Kalonzo Musyoka. On the other side was Ichung'wah. But then when they agreed on certain things that should be taken to Parliament and be processed through policy and the legal frameworks, then the Gen Z movement came, which ODM did not start. So if the Gen Z movement metamorphosized to William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza government reaching out to Raila Odinga, and the country was burning, and Raila became a statesman enough to say, if we let it go that route and the country burns, we as ODM, Azimio, and all those are opposed to government might not even have a country to go and vie for and lead after that. So how it ended up that it is ODM who wanted this, I don't know. That's a version I am new to.
Back then,
the version I know.
Back then, things were different. This is 2 years later.
Things were only different because Raila was alive. And now Raila is dead. That's the difference, the major difference. Because even if you look at the party right now, there are people who right now are bold enough to tell the new party leader, Oburu Odinga, how old he is, when we both know Oburu and Raila were actually almost age mates, because when somebody is within 5 years with you, those are just age mates. So nobody was daring Raila in the eye and saying, you are old, I want your seat. But now we have young people who are saying, you are old, I want your seat. So that's the difference is the absence of Raila Odinga. But coming to this whole arrangement, I think Raila was clear, and he said, we came in to quell the fire that was consuming the country. Then to quell that fire, we agreed on some 10 points agenda, which they signed with President William Ruto. And among those 10 points agenda, they captured some of the things that Raila and his team in Azimio were agitating to get leadership so they could implement. And one of the key things was cost of living. It is in the 10 points agenda. So right now the country should be looking at, is that one of the 10 points agenda, the key thing that comes back to the people? Is it really happening? Is there something that is being done about it, or in terms of cost of living? The second thing about this, which I think has made some of the people from where I come from very excited, is the agenda of compensation, the justice compensation to the victims of protest. Because where I come from, my people have been on the street longest. So if you were to compensate these people, definitely there is going to be a huge chunk of people getting this compensation from my end.
Really
Unfortunately,
do you really see that happening, compensation?
It should have been, it should have happened by now if Kenyans didn't go to court. And that is taking us back to the conversation. We have a country. I mean, people can stop the president from doing some things. And we stopped the president from the Finance Bill 2024. And so, even as we want to paint on one hand a picture of gloomy whatever, there is also evidence on the right that sometimes we can always rise and do these things. So in the ODM as a party, I think the conversation was, if this 10 points agenda goes well, then we might as well consider talking to you about a coalition going forward. Okay. And so, according to the ODM team, especially those who are put in the committee tracking the 10 points agenda led by Zani, maybe the report they have given shows the leadership of ODM party that we are not too far from what we wanted. Maybe. So we can actually start talking to these people about the coalition. And there is nothing wrong. If you say ODM is excited, are you saying opposition, united opposition, are not excited about their coalition on the other side?
We're talking about ODM here. ODM and UDA. This 10 points agenda is being bandied around as the biggest thing. But looking at ODM, that is not really their concern right now. In those delegates' meetings, no one mentioned the 10 points agenda. I had it more on the UDA side. Don't you agree that ODM appears a bit too excited to get into this deal?
Yes, ODM is quite excited.
For their own survival.
In fact, yes. I listened to Dr. Oburu in Kibra, and I think that about 2 weeks ago, and he started by saying, you know, he was committing. You know, he repeated that they are committed and they'll continue the journey they started with William Ruto. And to a large extent, he appeared very timid. I mean, if it is Raila would have started by first saying how things are not working and then saying that we demand, you know, and that kind of thing. And therefore, one, I want to agree with Meshach that Oburu Odinga is not Raila Odinga. And therefore, a lot of things have changed from the time we lost BAMBA. The kind of power he held, the way he negotiated, and really his capacity to just speak out. Come out here and convince all of us that things are okay or things are not okay. Having said that, let me tell you something. And my brothers here know that power sharing agreements are private, are elitist, okay? And they do not, in most cases, benefit the common person. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, because of lack of public participation during these processes, people are always treated to big words, jargons, and big agenda, while in actual sense, what is put on paper is just some power sharing, events and the how. And that is never mentioned publicly. And there are people are left now with a lot of paper romance like the 10-point agenda. If you ask the public, the general public, what the 10-point agenda is, most of the time they will not know. It takes someone like Meshach, who is really in the bedroom of ODM, or the other people who are in government, to really understand, dissect, and know what it really means. Now, to me, I don't think ODM is getting a raw deal. I think they are comfortable, and especially the side that is led by Oburu, the Wangas, and that the side of ODM. Because right now it's like we have ODM A and ODM B. Clearly, I think ODM A is the Oburu side, and ODM B to me is Winnie, Sifuna, Babu, and Wengine. Unfortunately, that side, ODM B now, is weakened from the moment Mama Ida Odinga accepted, because they were relying very much on Mama Ida Odinga, you know, for support. And every time you saw her in public with the likes of Sifuna, then they almost appeared untouchable. But the fact that she has accepted this nomination to the UN, this appointment rather.
It is a game changer?
It is a game changer. They are exposed, and they have to make very serious decisions. They have to make decisions, either to toe the line and now remain under Oburu, or leave ODM for good. Right. They only have those two choices.
Wakili, in any negotiation, of course, it's advised that you negotiate from a point of strength. ODM appears almost begging for this. Do you agree that probably they're not doing this negotiation the right way?
They're begging.
You see, you see, the truth of the matter is that the current ODM is different from Raila's ODM. What we have right now is a weekend party. A party that right now has no stand. ODM cannot just sit, for example, if there's a motion in parliament. ODM cannot take a position on its own. It cannot even whip its own members of parliament. It has to depend on State House for them to be whipped, to take a certain, to toe a certain line. If you look at what has been happening for the last 1 month, nobody talks more about broad-based government, more than ODM. Nobody in UDA talks about broad-based government because they know there is nothing like broad-based government. It is UDA that has swallowed ODM. And the only way to finalize this merger, you see, ODM wants to show that they are still a strong party, which is a lie. ODM died with Raila. And that is the truth of the matter. So what you have right now are people who are still hanging on to that legacy of ODM. Yeah? And since they cannot just decide, okay, let's disband ODM and join UDA. So what are we going to do? Let us just show some form of strength as a party, as ODM. Yeah? Let us do this Linda ground thing. We start with Nyanza because that is our strength. But the truth of the matter is, the audience of Kinamesha is no longer that ODM that was there with Raila. Yes? And whatever that you see people talking about 10-point agenda, it's just looking for relevance, so that something that can resonate with the ground. Yeah? Something that they can still try and link with Raila, yeah? So that the party is...
You see ODM surviving post this coalition, once they merge with the UDA, whatever formation they'll have, then after a few years, do you see ODM again coming out?
ODM is dead. Is the end? ODM is dead. Right. And that's the truth of the matter. We do not have ODM. What we have are people trying to hang on to that party, in the hope that if there's going to be a pact, they're the ones who are going to join.
Is this ODM's funeral, this coalition pact, is it ODM's funeral?
No, of course not factual. I mean that's probably an extreme position on the survival of the Orange Democratic Party. I think, remember what I said when I was starting, that it's normal. What's happening in the political scene would be normal. And it's not only...
You've seen what UDA has done to the parties.
And probably even this week we might understand that the United Opposition probably going through a gravitation to understand, the ground and what ground footing are they still holding. And it's normal. As it is normal with what is going on in ODM, by the function that everyone is testing its ground. Everyone is trying to solidly galvanize the ground to, portray a message of strength and that they're still strong or they're stronger. However, I will agree that the nature of our political parties is hanging around personalities and ethnicity. And once circumstances like that do not exist because of conditions like for death, like now we are talking about the former party leader, then there's definitely going to be a shift in the party. There's definitely going to be people pulling towards different directions. It started when people saying that when Baba died, they told me this. Others saying, I dreamt that he told me this. Everyone is pulling towards the figure of what Baba could have actually said, and which is okay, which is comfortable. Yeah. But I don't believe that this probably could be the death of the political party. I think that probably post-election or even pre-election, they would galvanize around. These voices, I believe, that would come together. We've seen towards it. Remember, there's a call for NDC. We might not even postulate.
And I'm just
what probably would come with the NDC, the ODM party.
To the formation of the Jubilee Party. Two strong parties come together, TNA, URP, and they work as a Jubilee Alliance. Then after some point they realize, okay, fine, probably it would be more convenient if we just make this Jubilee Alliance the Jubilee Party, forget about URP and TNA. Yeah. Isn't that the same script we're looking at now, that yes, they may go into 2027 as an alliance, ODM, UDA, but after that, it is definitely a journey towards a different party. President Ruto has been very clear about what he wants, one big monolithic party, like the Communist Party.
Actually, you know, dealing with ODM is a bit different from dealing with these other traditional political parties, and especially when you talk about TNA and URP. Because as Meshach rightfully put it initially, he said that they have been in the opposition for the longest. They've known protest for the longest. So these are people that are also freely, they've been expressing themselves. Okay, and they speak out. A majority of the ODM politicians are not what I would call timid politicians. You know, I'm just comparing them with other parts of Kenya. And therefore, that freedom that they exercise and they are used to, the people who are involved in this creation of the coalition must be very keen, because there's too much noise coming from within ODM, just within ODM. Forget even about the UDA-ODM, no, ODM itself. Because there's some people who believe that this is not how it should go. Others say, oh, Baba said this, Baba told this, Baba, you know, if Baba was there, would have done things different. And I think it is because of the foundation on which the party was created. Now, however, there's something, as Wakili was speaking, there's something that I remembered. Before Baba rested, and while he was joining when he was joining Ruto to form the broad-based government, there's something he said. And I like quoting what he said as opposed to what other people report. And he said, I have joined my brother William Ruto, and it is Uhuru Kenyatta who requested me to sort of help him put his house in order, or something close to that. This country's politics revolves around, we know the key figures, and I like the fact that my brother also said that our politics revolves around personalities. Majority of these people, whether you're talking about the Kenyatta faction, which is strong, whether you're talking about the Odingas, whether you're talking now the people who hold power today, if you look at them very well, they don't mind status quo. They work very hard to protect status quo and to even protect each other. And therefore, for me, for ODM moving forward and continuing working with UDA, the question that we should ask ourselves, and maybe that's where the next conversation should start, who are these people involved in the machinations and everything else, the maneuvers and what is happening currently in the two parties? Remember, these people in ODM, including Junet, have come out very strongly to mention the name of Uhuru Kenyatta. Yet Uhuru Kenyatta has his own party called the Jubilee Party. Why are they mentioning him? They are very, this is a debate that we dwelled on, I think, the better part of last week and the other week. And therefore, at times, I look at ourselves who come here to debate on these issues with you, as watu wa kizungu mingi. Because at times we really do not understand certain dealings that happen at a very high level.
We can just make comparisons because, and that's why I made a comparison with what happened leading to the formation of the Jubilee Party. Isn't that a reality? We've seen it historically, and it involved very high-ranking politicians in Kenya, that ODM may not be able to maintain its identity after this coalition, that may change after a while. And I just, allow me to inform you, we have only about 8 minutes, so 2 minutes each for your final comments. Yes,
so, Fred, I want to put it this way. In the existing political parties now that are at that level of the which we would consider national parties with presence all over, I think of all of them, ODM has managed to be in so many coalitions than any of them, because ODM was in a coalition in 2013, ODM was in a coalition in 2017, and ODM was in a coalition in 2022. So ODM,
in 2007.
So if that ODM is the one that everybody is able to come to a panel like this, like Wakili, and dismiss that ODM has been swallowed.
That was Raila.
Wait, has been swallowed.
That was Raila.
But at the same time, he probably belongs to a party that is 2 or 3 years old, has never seen a coalition with their own eyes, and he believes in the coalition where they are. They have not been swallowed by anyone. Actually, they are the ones swallowing. And ODM, which is 20 years in a coalition, cannot swallow. Can't you see that reasoning? It is not a reasoning that I will want to buy in a panel like this.
But you do accept that after Raila Odinga, things have changed?
Post-Raila Odinga, let me tell you, post-Raila Odinga, ODM must go through some problems because, of course, a towering figure like Raila leaving must leave a gap. But are there no people in that party that were with Raila all this time? When I listened to a clip or I watched Mama Aida Odinga tell the country and the world at large that apart from me, his wife, the next person he trusted most, leave alone his children, was Dr. Oburu Odinga. Is that statement not in your gadgets in this studio? Right. That Oburu Odinga she talked about is the party leader today. When Mama Aida told the whole world that it is Oburu Odinga, if you wanted anything from Raila, you would rather talk to Oburu Odinga to make things easy for you. And the president, ODM at 20 in Mombasa, came out to tell us that the person who negotiated, the person other than Raila and me, the only other person who was in that room, it was Dr. Oburu Odinga. Even the person who brought me the list of the ministers I appointed from ODM was Dr. Oburu Odinga. Why are we all of a sudden not thinking that Oburu Odinga can maintain the ODM identity post-Raila? The man who was there all the time. Now the people who have never been there are all of a sudden, parties that have never gone beyond one constituency are now all of a sudden clever and are able to tell ODM how to maintain identity and how to be national. Parties that have never known what being national is. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Right.
You see,
maintain its identity after this.
ODM won't. And you see, that's the reality. Unfortunately, people like Meshach do not want to admit that reality. The only person in the face of ODM was one Raila Amolo Odinga. He's the one who entered into a coalition with Kibaki in 2007, 2008. He's the one who had a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta. He's also the one who was in broad, or whatever he's saying.
It was never the party.
Yes, it was never the party. You see, and that's the truth. This was Raila Amolo Odinga. He is no longer there. That's the reason why ODM is begging day in, day out, let us support you in 2027. They are the ones who are coming up with that proposition that we want to be in broad-based government. Because they realized on their own, ODM cannot even win half of the seats that they have right now. Mm-hmm. That's the truth of the matter.
Right.
We went.
Yes.
And there was a violation of 6 constituencies, and ODM won 3.
Now,
let Wakili tell us what his party won. Okay. Because he cannot speak.
Wakili, are you done with your final comments?
Yes. No, I'm not done.
How many seats did your party win in the by-election? 6 constituencies.
It is not time for debate.
Yes.
Final comments only.
No, my final comment on this is this one, and I go back to what happened in Othaya. I have to be very clear. And IG Kanja, and I'm addressing this to the IG. It's time you realize you're being set up you will take up responsibility personally. Do not allow rogue people, politicians, to use your police force to advance their personal agenda.
Thank you. Bwana Orogo, final comments on it.
The politics of identity. I mean, this is what we are debating this morning, and we put the facts into order. Let me correct Wakili again and say that even though Honorable Raila was the one appending his signature, it was PNU and ODM. So the party was quite involved in terms of getting that agreement together. However, Fred, I also like to just say that we are moving towards a dangerous predictory that we are seeing right now, where we are normalizing violence and using state organs and machinery, to violate people's rights on expression and in worship. I think all these we must condemn, because if we don't, if it's right with us today, it means that tomorrow somebody will face the same thing and will find it right. So I think it is quite important for us to be very vigilant as a nation, that we express our view towards the dissatisfaction of security agencies being used in political violations. I think that will clearly tell. And please, there are other presidential candidates that I think we need to focus on. There are so many that has declared in united opposition, so I think it could be very fair moving forward that we also look at the likes of President Marageni, look at the likes of Kalonzo Musyoka, look at the likes of other presidential candidates that have declared, even Nokia, so that we have a balanced political debate here.
My job is very easy. I simply look at the front pages. I don't go fishing for a name that is not making headlines. Finally, final comments.
Our political bad manners. We have normalized for a very, very long time that one, we introduce violence, we spit bile, anger, and all manner of bad things in our politics. And then after we have experienced enough chaos, then people are called to the table, either to negotiate, to agree on power sharing, and stuff like that. That time is over. And it is very important for our politicians to remember that we are dealing with a population that is woke. And I say this because in Kenya, the opponents of today, the guys opposing William Ruto today, and the people that William Ruto is opposing today, can meet tomorrow and have handshakes and agree to work together. But before those handshakes happen, so many people maybe will have died, or so many people will be affected negatively. I think it is important that we introduce and moving forward, we speak to issues as opposed to insulting each other and those kind of things. And I want to quote one member of parliament that I observed last week, Mheshimiwa Dede Nyoro. He was addressing a very sensitive issue in parliament together with the committee on privatization. And he didn't have to insult anybody. Can we take that route as a country, as opposed to heckling and insulting each other in rallies?
Thank you so much. I can see someone complain sana hapa anaitwa at Lusigi Justus 7274 6767. TV47 national issues like Gunism and armed gangsters by police has given 25 minutes maximum. Useless ODM, UDA, PA and whatever formation which is of less national security is given 1 hour. What is the problem? Where are propaganda?
Is that what I've just said? Is that what I've said? Isn't that what I've just said?
30 seconds.
My parting shot would be this. Of the national important issues, this is where we want government, especially parliament, to stop being the weak link. Parliament should do oversight properly. Right. So when we see violence in the street, it shouldn't matter on who. They should all unite as members of parliament to oversight the executive who controls the police and tell Kenyans, we don't want this on behalf of the people.
Asante, and our time is up. Monday Blitz coming up next. Sijui tutatembelea wapi sisi watu Arsenal. Thank you so much, Daniel Orogo, Kathy Rungu, Mesha Kodede, and Wakili Murigi Kamande, our panelists this morning on TV47. Once again, the chaos at a church making headlines on all the front pages. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. Good morning.